Oh, there. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the May meeting of the West Bend Plan Commission to order. I acknowledge that we do have a quorum tonight, and with both the mayor and Commissioner Jenkins excused. Will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you. Next item to consider is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of April 3rd, 2016. Entertain a motion or action on this item.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, development proposals. Item A under that is a public hearing starting at 6 o'clock on the 2020 comprehensive plan. Before we get into this on our public hearings, we're going to establish a few ground rules. Number one, everybody, because this is a public hearing and people do have a right to make comments about what we're proposing, but we're going to limit your discussion to 3 minutes each. Secondly, try not to be repetitious. If somebody's made some mention and then 2 times later you want to repeat it again, we're going to ask you not to do that. Try and consolidate it all. And I know all your points are going to be very germane and essential to you, but we do ask you to be a little bit considerate of everybody that's not only up here, but who's watching this on TV. So the first item is a public hearing for a request to amend the 2020 comprehensive plan for the city of West Bend for a change in the recommended land use from single-family residential to industrial for approximately 62.7 acres of land located approximately 1/2 mile south of Ruskell Road and east of South River Road by the City of West Bend Department of Development. Leading us on this will be Jim Reinke, our esteemed planner.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Back on April 3rd of this year, the Plan Commission reviewed a request for the land use change for the 62.7 acre land located south of Ruskell Road and on the east side of South River Road. The Plan Commission did set the hearing date for tonight to hear any comments or concerns regarding the proposed land use changes and the zoning request. The lands were annexed into the city back in April of this year. And as part of the annexation, temporary zoning was affixed to the property as M2 heavy industrial, with the anticipation for the completion of a comprehensive plan change. The property owner and the Department of Development is requesting the amendment to the 2020 plan to modify the recommended land use from the single-family residential use to an industrial use. This request is to facilitate the development of the land. Surrounding existing land uses is single family to the far north, and also vacant lands, vacant farmlands to the south, and then also city industrial zoned lands to the west. There is also some industrial land uses to the south of the parcel also, further south. Given the surrounding land uses and the physical characteristics of the property, staff found that the industrial use would be a suitable land use for this area. The county plan and the town plan comprehensive plans also identify these areas as the additional or as the industrial use, thus leading to the conclusion that the proposed land use of industrial would be an acceptable alternative to the comprehensive plan. The public notice has been published in the paper, along with notices were sent to were posted at City Hall and the library, and also on the city's website. Staff did receive 2 general inquiries regarding the change, and also an opposition to the was expressed by residential owners in the single-family development further to the north along Rusco Road there. If the Plan Commission finds the amendment to be acceptable, we are also asking, as part of the approval process, the approval of the resolution acknowledging the change of this comprehensive plan change.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, now we will open the public hearing for comment. Anybody who wishes to address this one, please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and please give us your address, and then we'll listen. Remember, you do have a 3-minute time limit on this. So,
Hello, I'm Dr. Patrick Balkowski. I live in 5234 High Ridge Trail, the subdivision just north of this proposal. I also own a business in West Bend. I'm a property taxpayer in the city of West Bend also, so my concerns, I believe, are from both sides. First, our association would like to know why this rezoning is needed at this time with other properties better suited for development in accordance with the 2020 plan of the city currently out there. Directly to the west of us, there is a farm for sale, or there is other land for sale on P that is in the 2020 plan that is zoned industrial. There's large amounts of industrial zone land behind Delta Defense and Walmart and all of those areas. So I'm not sure why this is being proposed. And when I asked, I got that we don't have a plan. Second, in the past precedent with this, I looked through that whole document of the 2020 plan. You guys have had, since 2004, 11 amendments. Only 2 of them have had to deal with changing land into industrial use. One of them was over on River Road in East Washington, and it had no residential land even near it. The other one was the annexation of the Johann Gravel Pit on Decorah Road and University, which was an existing gravel pit before it was annexed in, so I'm sure that's the only reason it was annexed and made industrial. Those are the only 2 amendments that follow this precedent, you've said. In 2010, I came before this board trying to get rezoning for my own business in this town, and I was rejected on the premise of we should not put B5 categories directly next to residential properties. Sarah, I know, was here, Jim White, and Jed, you guys were on the board at this time, and it was your straight statements of we do not want to put businesses right next to residential properties for the fact that we don't know what your business or future businesses may bring into the area. And I was just asking for B5. Now we're asking for M2 next to our residential subdivision. So I believe the shoe's on the other foot, and I feel like I'm not sure why this is out there if that was the consensus years ago. Heavy industrial M2, the zoning of it in the zoning itself has many different allowable things, and to put it near a residential subdivision to me seems almost absurd. An example of that would be the Metalcraft subdivision right south of Bob Fish, and Metalcraft next to a residential subdivision, and the lawsuits that ensued after stamping presses were shaking people's drywall loose. This is stuff that I just feel our subdivision shouldn't be exposed to, and I think it's easily avoidable by leaving the land properly zoned residential as in your 2020 plan, which you've steadfast to since 2004. I'm not sure other points are out there to be made, but a lot of people from our subdivision are here to probably make similar complaints, and we do have our association president here with some petitions we've signed.
okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, Scott Mendel, 5250 High Ridge Trail in West Bend. As Dr. Falkowski stated, I do have signed petitions against the proposal, close to 60 signatures on these petitions. I would also add, in addition to what has already been stated, our concerns include traffic congestion and the safety of traffic, especially at the corner of Rusco and the River Road intersection. My question would be, has an environmental impact study been completed regarding addition of especially heavy industry into this area and the impact that it would have on our residential wells that are located there? I would like to know that. I would like to know if the city has any targeted industries or industry for that property, and has this property already been purchased, or has this property been purchased already contingent on this rezoning issue being resolved? Our concerns are with pollution, visual pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, obviously water pollution, are also our most, I guess, greatest concern would be the devaluation of our property as a result of this. Is there any plan for a buffer if this does go through to protect our residential property from, it was stated that this is a logical development, industrial is logical, not to the 37 homeowners in our subdivision. Having heavy industrial next to a residential is not a logical development. And if we're following a plan, which it doesn't seem like we are, I don't understand why we would have a plan in the first place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Anyone else have any comments, please?
My name is Nathan Scheineman. I live at 5258 High Ridge Trail. I'm one of the newer members actually of the subdivision. What drew me to the subdivision was how quiet it is here, and the possibility of having M2 250 feet away from my backyard is very disturbing to me. So I ask that you do not go through with this. And the one additional thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of these maps that we've seen are very deceiving because it doesn't even show our individual plots on it and our road. So I want to point out to most people that that point kind of in the center of that yellow that goes up to the top, that actually touches one of my neighbor's yards that's less than 250 feet from my backyard. So that's a little too close to home. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this?
Hi, my name is Eric Weckworth. My address is 5268 High Ridge Trail, West Bend, Wisconsin. I'm opposed to changing the zoning. As has been indicated earlier, I'm not quite sure why, if you develop a plan and spend the money as a city council to have a plan, that you don't stick to the plan. That's the purpose, I thought, of a plan. Additionally, when we look at all of the businesses in West Bend, right now there's a lot of help wanted signs. They're not getting the help. And you have land that's open that isn't being utilized that you don't need to rezone. So you already have a deficit as far as the number of people that you can employ. Companies aren't able to find the people, and you have land available. So why would you be opening another door to try to draw in more business when we're not able to fulfill what's needed right now, and there are other options available? The other thing that I think you really need to consider from just a homeowner standpoint, when people go to buy their homes, when I bought my home, I did look at your plan. It was zoned residential. That's the reason I invested in purchasing my home, so that I knew down the road what was going to happen. For you guys to now turn around and say, well, we're going to change it, and it sounds like if you annex the land already, this is a plan that's been in the works, but you haven't notified anybody. I can tell you that the subdivision to the north of us, the Belinsky subdivision, they're not going to be happy about this going in either. When I talked to a few of the people that were out of town, they were upset. They didn't even get a letter. You also have a subdivision that's going in to the east of the high school. It's a big project. You're going to have a lot of residential development going on there. We're going to have a lot of traffic coming in, and you're going to now bring in semis and all kinds of industrial equipment. That doesn't make sense. I understand developing to the west. You have that corridor open and it's already zoned that way. That to me makes sense, but I don't understand why you would deviate and suddenly look to change how a land is already zoned and take these steps ahead of time. The only other question I ask, is there any way you guys can answer any questions?
Not at this time, until everybody else has an opportunity to express their feelings.
Is there a chance for after you, will you answer any of the questions today before you make your decision?
We will try to address the ones that are pertinent to the actual action item before we'll address our answers to the Plan Commission. So all I can represent right now.
Because I guess if it's an initial hearing, my other question would be is after you get input from us, and if we could hear some of your answers and your thoughts, we kind of understand where this is coming from. You know, logical discussion, you get another chance to kind of understand a little bit more so that we could respond in kind. I guess that's all I'm asking for.
Just when we close the public hearing, and then each one of the commissioners gets an opportunity to digest what's being said and what their independent thoughts are, and then if they feel that it's appropriate to address other issues that may have been raised that are germane to this situation, then they'll definitely go ahead with it before that we'll take a vote on it.
Okay.
So it's not we're just going to right away make a vote as soon as we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Pat Nielsen. I live at 5252 High Ridge Trail. Just to ensure clarity about what we're talking about, where we are, is it possible if I could approach the map and show where our subdivision is, just to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about?
Would that help any of the commissioners, or are you familiar with everything?
It's okay.
Fine, go ahead. Right there in front of you.
Just to make sure you're not familiar, this is where our subdivision is. So as one of our previous residents was talking about, on this corner right here, we're gonna have people in this corner of the subdivision. This is gonna be actually touching our lot line. So very concerning. Of course, over here is where there's other industrial open. So it seems more logical over here where there's away from the residential subdivision. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else have any more comments?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same motion, same sign. Motion's carried. We'll move on to commissioners' reflections on this. Who wants to start? Chris?
Sure, why not? It's good to see all you guys here, and I appreciate the concern and the input. This is tough for me because it's two things in my mind. What other land is zoned for is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but just because there's vacant industrial in other areas doesn't mean that this shouldn't be industrial. But I also believe that when you're part of a community and you buy property, you build a house, you purchase a house, and you do the due diligence of seeing that the surrounding land is residential, that it's not fair, could be perceived as not fair, to make that change and impact, your property. So I get that, and while you guys were talking when this started, I pulled up on Google Earth to see exactly how close it is. And I would have to say if I owned a piece of property in that subdivision, I'd probably be sitting with you guys out there. So I'm struggling a little bit with this one to think it makes sense to make the change. Given the fact of the timeline of when that subdivision was built, plus hearing input from the public. I don't know if tonight I'm ready to say yes, makes sense.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that very much. Maxie, how about you?
I understand what Chris is saying, and I know that, like he said, probably if I owned land there, I would be sitting in with the crowd. And I also see the city's side, being the city engineer, the city's point of view with development coming in. And I know there are other properties that are open for development, but there may not be offers from developers on those lands. And I guess coming from our Department of Development, they deal with the developers, and the developers may want to be in a certain location versus another one. So as far as the choice of the location or the choice of changing the zoning, I also understand how it makes sense economically for the city to pursue that avenue.
Okay. Thank you, Max. Rich?
So in looking at it, from my perspective, as the to answer one of the questions out there, while there's the perception of other industrial lands that are out there, the requests that our economic development department has been receiving are for lots that are much larger than the available lots that we currently have available. And I don't know, Mark and Jim, if you can speak to that when we get to your area, in terms of what the businesses have been looking for. To answer another question, the help wanted signs, some of these will be, the people that have asked about lands are looking at moving. They're either landlocked today, or they are in a different community that may be looking for expansion, and they don't have the room in their community, or they're looking to make a move farther north. So I kind of echoed Max's thoughts on this. You know, there's the economic development side of it, which would be substantial to the roles here at West Bend. And that would be my comments.
Okay, thank you. Bernie?
I'm certainly sympathetic with the residents of the subdivision, but with industrial to the west and industrial to the southeast, right now I'm leaning in favor of it. Any development in that industrial land, I would certainly think would take into consideration the subdivision and create some kind of buffer to it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'm struggling with this, and I would second some of Chris's comments. I perhaps have the advantage of not really knowing who is asking for this or what's being developed here, and I'm looking at this through a lens of simply what makes sense. And I have been sitting in this chair for a long time, and I always felt that my position and my lens should be that of the people of West Bend. And so for that reason, I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, and I believe I would be sitting where you are too. So I'm leaning against it at this moment.
Jed?
To echo what was already said, it is not up to the town residents to say what the city of West Bend should or should not develop for an industry. The same as it's not for the city to tell the town of Trenton what it should be doing. That said, do the town residents know that they have township zoned land that's industrial near them? Your own township has industrial zoning near where you live. Do you know that? Sir, you do know that.
May I speak?
Well, do you know that? That's all. Okay.
Yes, I do know that, and I do know that it offers no services, so it's not as attractive as land to this type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also the opposite of the 2020 plan.
It does show that the township apparently had the same thoughts as the city. Now, Dr. Falkowski is correct that I'm one of the commissioners. By the way, we're the Plan Commission, not the City Council. Someone had mentioned City Council. I have always taken very seriously the intrusion of commercial or industrial onto or into a residential area. And so I do have the same concern that Sarah and Chris have. I did not expect that. Sir, actually, I think you said you're 250 feet away?
I am.
Your back lot line is 250 feet away from?
The mid-corner, if you, on the yellow map, if you know, like that's a,
Here. This
Oh.
corner right here is his lot line, and that would be touching the
Okay.
new
Okay. Yeah, so I still, I do have that concern about that intrusion. So that's all I'd say at this point.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you and Jim want to make some comments then, please?
Sure. I'll try to address some of the questions, and I apologize if I don't get them all, but there was a question regarding whether the environmental impact study is done. Typically, those are not done regarding land use or land division type decisions. Those are usually only done under improvement conditions. We have no development plans for this at this time submitted to us. So no, there was not an environmental impact study done, and typically those are not done for this type of action. You asked if there's a target industry. Again, there are no development proposals specific for this site, so I'd have to answer no, that there isn't. The designation, land use designation that we're talking today is strictly industrial, and the next one would be regarding the zoning, which is a specific zoning district, and those uses can be identified in our zoning code if you're interested. As for plans for a buffer, again, without development plans, those are typically considered under the development plans, the subdivision or the individual site plans for a development. This body routinely requires staff to look for those, but I can't speak to it because, again, there are no development plans at this time for this specific to it. As to the other opinions, I won't offer a counter on those.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Mark was able to cover everything that I had written down too for questions. And again, at staff level, we have, we reviewed the request, we looked at, the impacts, and we feel that this is an alternative for the land use from what we have from our originally approved plan.
I will reiterate to the commissioners, this land, when staff reviewed it, it has very suitable grades, it has very suitable soil conditions, it's a large unencumbered nature in ownership, lends itself to this type of use. The adjoining uses to the west and to the southeast already have set a precedence. Again, both the county and town comprehensive plans do show this as industrial, and the town doesn't have it as zoned as industrial already. So it is well suited for the use from that perspective, and issues regarding the proximity to the planned development overlay development that these individuals live in can be looked at as part of the further development process as it comes before this body.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jed?
Speaking only for myself, but I guess I would feel more comfortable. It's almost like a chicken or the egg kind of a thing, because it may be premature to expect this, but I'd be more comfortable if I knew what the buffer would be between I mean, we might zone it industrial, but they're not going to put factories right up to the edge. So we know there is going to be a buffer, and I would be more able to handle this if we could know what that buffer was going to be in terms of distance and topography. But we don't know that right now. Then I also had a question for the people in the audience. We have the zoning amendment, the comprehensive plan change, which is what we've got right now, and then the zoning amendment. So both have to pass,
That's right.
correct?
That is correct. The comprehensive plan would have to pass here and at council. The zoning amendment is a recommendation by this body to council and would have to be approved there.
Mark, can we, Cassie, just possibility of just approving the comprehensive plan but not approving the zoning amendment? Is that an option until we can get more further delineation? Or is that too far-fetched?
It's Plan Commission's directive. You can take whatever action you'd like. I would ask that you at least hold a public hearing and hold a discussion, and if you want to forego a decision, that's certainly within your capability, but we have the people in the room that received notification. It won't, that notification list won't change, so I don't want to waste anyone else's time on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the part of the commission? If not, I'll, entertain a motion to amend the 2020 comprehensive plan for the city of West Bend for a change in the recommended land use for single-family residential to industrial for approximately 62.7 acres of land located approximately half-mile south of Rusco Road and east of South River Road, as proposed by the Department of Development. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye. Oh, we need a motion, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Second.
Okay. It's been now moved and seconded. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. We have a count, please.
I'm sorry, we have 2 opposed here. And 1 there? Okay. 4-3.
So it did pass 4-3. Thank you. We'll move on now to item B, which is the zoning amendment public hearing. And this public hearing is ZA-19-002, a public hearing for a request to permanently zone approximately 62.7 acres of land located approximately 1/2 mile south of Rusco Road on the east side of South River Road to M2 Heavy Industrial District by Ruth Ann Smith. And Jim?
Thank you. This is a follow-up from the comprehensive plan. This zoning amendment will establish the permanent zoning for the 62.7 acres that was annexed to the city back in April 1st of this year. The property to be zoned is surrounded by Town of Trenton zoned industrial lands to the east and to the south. Also the M2 heavy industrial on the west side. There's also Town Trenton zoned lands, residential lands at the southeast corner of Rusco and River Road there, and then also a portion that is also zoned industrial adjacent to the property. The zoning right now is not consistent with the comprehensive plan until the Common Council takes action on the zoning or the comprehensive plan amendment. Upon approval of that, this zoning would be consistent with that approval then. All owners within 200 feet were notified of the public hearing, and staff received no comments or inquiries in regards to the zoning amendment for this one. So staff would recommend approval to the Common Council with the condition that the comprehensive plan be approved by the Common Council.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Again, it's another public hearing, so it's open to comment. Please, again, if you are going to address us, please come to the podium, give us your name and your address, please.
Dr. Patrick Falkowski, 5234 High Ridge Trail, West Bend, Wisconsin. I just want to put my objection into it being M2. I can understand you want to develop the city and grow the tax base and job opportunities and all these things you guys are referring to, but you are putting one of the most, how can I put it, the heaviest zoning rule on them as M2 right next to abutting Kinney Quarter, one step off the property next to single family residence. There is no way, there is hardly any other things on that whole map that have an M2 zoned industrial butting directly up to a single family residence. If you loaned it something else, maybe we would not have as many complaints. But the fact that they can put 100-ton presses in there that shake for a block, or the scent, there's no rules on scent. It can be a 60-foot high tall building. It could have permanent lights on 24 hours a day, chilling stations to take care of refrigeration if it's a warehouse. These things create constant noise, constant pollution that we are going to be next to. And we were here with land in your 2020 plan that said this was supposed to be single-family residence. So I understand the economical development, but it is not my fault that this business likes the price of this land and wants to change it. I went through the same scenario. I tried to get it changed. It didn't work. Then I moved on. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wants to address this?
Again, Scott Mendel, 5250 High Ridge Trail in West Bend. I would just ask that the commission consider what Mr. Dolnick had said. If you do go forward, that this and approve this motion, that it is contingent on buffer contingencies, things that would alleviate the issues that I raised before about sight, sound, odor, pollution that would affect our properties. My other concern is why do we have to go right from industrial to heavy industrial at this point if, as stated, there was no imminent developer that is interested in this property? Why do we have to jump to go from 0 to 100 right away? Thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else want to address this, please, in the audience?
My name's Nathan Scheineman. I live at 5258 High Ridge Trail. Echoing some of the statements of my fellow residents, I actually, first answering one of the questions that Jed brought up about knowing if it was industrial. It was zoned industrial, but it was not zoned heavy industrial. Also, it was not zoned heavy industrial without city services, which really limits what industrial can be. The other statement that was made earlier was that there's, this has no precedent on other land. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. There is other land that is available. There's 100 acres for sale that's zoned this already that is farm fields. It's currently for sale. There's a big for sale sign on it. You can go look at it. It's across from the industrial park on Rusco Road. in talking to certain people, some people have said, well, that's not really for sale, but the sign's there. I know someone that called it. They're willing to sell it. This, to me, seems like a big money grab because this is cheap land to go expand this way instead of doing it the proper way. And in essence, you're pulling that money directly out of my pocket. The last thing I'd like you to know is by that back corner, I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter that I just put in a pool for in that backyard. Now that we're gonna get to probably smell something really nice or feel the ground shake. I think this is just wrong.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to address this situation?
One thing that I want to be put on public record is we received a letter originally that said the zoning was going to be changed, or there was going to be this hearing to change the zoning from residential to M1. Then we received a letter, I don't know, maybe 5 days later, a week later, that now it wanted to be changed from residential to M2. There's been no explanation as to why suddenly there's this change. It would indicate to me that there has been some discussion someplace by someone that suddenly it would be better to zone it from M1 to M2, and this change was made. I don't understand how that happens either. And again, as many of you have indicated, you've said, if this was you'd be sitting here too. So the question I guess I would ask you is, why is it okay because it's not you? That's what I'd like to know. It's really, when we talk about how we should be handling things, if it isn't right for you, then why is it okay for it to happen to us? And with all due respect, because I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time dealing with a lot of people who aren't real happy with all your decisions, and you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. I understand that. But when the interests of one group or one entity outweigh the interests of a larger group, just because we don't have as much money, that's kind of a slap in the face to the citizens who exist in this area. I understand the need for economic development. I don't understand the desire to have economic development and industry here, other than it's nice land, it's smooth, there's nothing we have to get out of the way. Business has deep pockets. They find ways to get the money they need. They don't need to do it on the backs of the citizens. They shouldn't be doing that. And as public representatives, I would expect that you would believe in that too. There's a happy medium here, but I don't think it's being reached by the way this is going. Thank you. Again, my name, I forgot, it's Eric Weckworth, 5268 High Ridge Trail.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to comment on this?
Move to close public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you. And now, for commission discussion, what have you? Jed?
The only thing I was going to say that one of the comments that was made had to do with, segued off of what I said about the site plan. And actually, that will, if this rezone passes tonight, then nothing can be built until we approve a site plan, and that's where that oversight would come in. But that wouldn't have anything to do with the rezoning. That's the only thing I was going to clarify.
Okay, thank you. Sarah?
And I'll just add to that, regardless of the vote, the 4-3 vote, there's no one who sits up here who wouldn't be concerned about that buffering if this were to go that far.
The only thing I want to point out in past proposals, when we looked at just purely residential proposals that were single-family to multifamily, we've had discussion about, does it make sense to have an 8-unit apartment next to a single-family residence? And I'm kind of looking at this situation as that, where I'm all for commercial construction, I'm all for development. I just am struggling if the M2 to residential without a barrier of gradually creating that natural buffer of different entities that are less intrusive. I just keep going back to thoughts, previous things I've said about residential and not having, a certain building next to another building without having any kind of transition, I guess is what I'm thinking.
I agree with you.
Okay. Max or Rich? Or Bernie?
How much M2 acreage is available undeveloped in West Bend currently?
You can help me on this one, Jim, but I believe we have 3 sites totaling approximately 17, 18 acres in the East Industrial, in the Wingate Creek Business Park. 3 broken up sites. One is around 10, the other 2 are smaller.
Yeah, that's about right for that side.
There is no M2 within the South Industrial Park.
No.
There is no, there's one.
We have, what, 1.5 acres available on the west side of this development over here, I believe.
Correct.
And then the other industrial is M3, the corporate center, that's all M3.
Mm-hmm. That's just business.
That's our
park.
certified site.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My question is what would be the possibility or probability of going to the less intense type of zoning? How does M1 compare to M2, and what's even less dense than that or less intense than that?
You can. The issue would be that the site suitability for this, the large sites, generally aren't M1. They tend to be land extensive type buildings, large scale buildings, and that tend to be into M2 type uses, warehousing, distribution, that sort of thing. The M1 tend to be smaller sites, and the site is probably of larger scale than typically would be for M1. That doesn't mean that M1 uses can't exist within the M2 district. Just because the title of the district is heavy industrial doesn't preclude the lesser intensive M1 uses within it.
But with that said, then M2 could go into our M3?
Some cases, not fully.
And what would be wrong if we opted to go with a less intense one? In as much as you alluded, there's been no interest or anything on it, but if somebody came up and said, geez, do you have something, is there a possibility that we could rezone it? Is that a possibility that might be?
Again,
more?
if the use was a typical M1 use, it wouldn't require rezoning. They could be they could just submit a site plan for it. It doesn't have to be rezoned in order. The M1 uses are permitted by right in the M2.
But if somebody wanted to have some sort of function in there that would be strictly M2, we then could look at it then and rezone it then to M2, if need be. Do we have that flexibility, I guess, is my question.
It's somewhat impractical to design, for someone to design a development and to plan infrastructure and the rest, depending upon that, without having, being able to depend upon the ability to do the specific type of use that they're designing it for. So the M2 has different facility needs, different width to depth ratios and all the rest of it that goes for the sites. So it would be hard to design it for both purposes.
But if someone came in and said that they needed this amount of land and everything, and it was M1, but it was an M2 function, we could then look at it and rezone it, couldn't we? It'd be without anything being done. Without them incurring any expense for design or anything.
Again, it depends on the development proposal that comes before us, yes.
As you can probably tell, I'm kind of leaning towards a less intense zoning to an M1 or something like that. And I can appreciate what you've alluded to about the heavy intensity of the M2. And so, what's the pleasure of the commission?
So Mark, just to reiterate, this is advisory to the Common Council, correct? So if it did come in at M2 or M1, council can...
They can alter as they see fit, yes.
Anyone care to make a motion to this effect?
I don't know if we can even make a motion for a lesser. We're just going off of what the proposal is, correct, Mark?
I believe you can alter the recommendation as you see fit. It's a recommendation to council. So.
Can I ask another question?
Please.
How much M1 is available in the city?
I'm smiling at Jim because M1 is not is a zoning that is not just used in industrial parks. It's used in scattered locations as well.
Correct.
So it's a lot harder to answer. Also, it's not all of it is platted, so it may be zoned M1. It may even be empty as M1, but it may be already owned by an adjoining use. So the city has no control over any of that portion.
There's more.
I can't answer the specific on it, but I can say that there is probably more M1 available in quantity of lots, quantity of sites, but I can't answer it as far as the acreage.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. There's a greater need for M2 than M1 in the city right now.
It's yes, I would say that's a fair statement.
I would make a motion to rezone to the M2 heavy industrial for this land.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to rezone to M2 for the land in question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign.
Aye.
Could we have a count, please? Chris, the ayes first, please.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Chris, yes or no?
No.
Okay. Max?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
No. Went down.
It fails 3-4.
Yeah. So the rezoning was lost, so that didn't go through. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item C, site plan, public hearing, SP-19-008, a public hearing for a request to allow an oversized LED electronic message center at 1300 East Paradise Drive by Quick Trip Incorporated. Jim, lead us on.
Thank you. This exception request is for an oversized LED panel. On April 3rd, the Plan Commission conditionally approved the Quick Trip project at the northwest corner of Paradise Drive and South River Road. The code requires LED panels to be a maximum of 16 square feet unless an exception is requested by the developer to grant for a larger LED panel. Quick Trip has requested, has made a request. They're requesting LED panel to be 21.59 square feet above the, or larger than the 16 square foot permitted. The request is being based off of the visibility and the legibility of the EMC being read in the location that they're proposing. Staff has notified all property owners within 200 feet of the request. Staff received only one general inquiry in regards to the sign design. If the commission finds the request to be acceptable, the condition that we would have on this so that a ground sign permit would be issued prior to the installation.
Thank you, Jim. And as much as this is a public hearing, anybody care to address this situation? If so, please come to the podium, give us your name and your address.
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Troy Molezova, Real Estate Manager, Quick Trip, 1626 Oak Street, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Just make myself available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments on this matter?
Move the public hearing be closed?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Does the commission have any questions at all for the Quick Trip representative?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to allow an oversized LED electronic message center at 1300 East Paradise Drive by Quick Trip Incorporated. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item D, discussion and recommendation to set a public hearing for a change in the recommended land use from industrial to commercial for a 0.77 acre parcel of land located on the east side of North River Road, approximately 300 feet north of East Washington Street by the City of West Bend Department of Development. Jim, lead us on again.
Thank you. This comprehensive plan request is being submitted for a 0.77 acre outlot that was created back in 2014. Originally, the property had a land use of commercial. A request was made to change it to the industrial for sale and also for future incorporation with the industrial lot to the north for a future building addition. Those plans never came to fruition, and nothing has moved forward with that. So now we're getting a request again to change it back to the commercial use in the land use plan. This is to help facilitate the development of the commercial lands to the east. So this would be incorporated with the lands to the east as part of the redevelopment of the area. The surrounding existing uses are industrial to the north, commercial to the west, south, and east. And staff did review this request, and given the proposal and the ability and wanting to combine this with the other commercial lots to the east, staff found this to be an acceptable alternative. If the Plan Commission would endorse the change, as part of the request for the land use change, a zoning change would also be requested to change it from the M2 heavy industrial zoning to B1 business or community business district. If the commission does find the proposal to be acceptable, staff would recommend that a public hearing be set for June 11th of 2019 at 6 p.m. to hear any comments and concerns regarding the comprehensive plan change.
Questions on the part of the commission? Not, I need a motion to set a public hearing on June 11th of 2019 at 6 p.m. To address this matter.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on, item E is a site plan. It's a SP-19-010, a site plan for building addition for existing church totaling 7,000 square foot, located at 2300 South Main Street by the First Baptist Church. The applicant is Pastor Luke Love. The agent is Joe Maluka. Jim McGinn.
Thank you. This site plan proposal is from First Baptist Church. They're requesting 2 building additions onto their existing building. One addition is for a multi-purpose room, which would be located on the west side of the building. That addition is 2,627 square feet. They're also adding a second addition on the south side of the building for classroom purposes, and that addition would be 4,687 square feet. The 11.4 acre parcel is zoned I-1, Institutional and Public Service District. Parking and access to this site actually will not be changing, and no additional parking is needed with the additional services being provided for this development. A stormwater management plan amendment is being reviewed for the development as a part of the review process. The architectural building elevations and the materials for the additions will be consistent with the existing materials of the building, which consist of split face block, brick, and vinyl siding. Additional landscaping has been provided around the south addition around the classroom area. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the 2 listed conditions.
Okay, thank you. Questions on the part of the commission?
I just have a comment on the stormwater management plan. It's possible we're going to see more grade changes that are on the site plan as it is today, because as we're going through the review, we're talking with the applicant right now on finalizing, especially the pond area in the Main Street, near the Main Street right away, trying to take into consideration future expansion of Main Street and everything like that. So they're running calculations for their capacity. The history is that in the past, the approved stormwater management plan was not fully implemented. There were some changes, and now we're in a situation where we need to resolve those issues. So once the stormwater management plan is approved, we're most likely going to see a different grading plan that is represented on the site plan right now. I just wanted to clarify that.
Good. Thank you very much, Max. Any other questions on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to this effect.
I'll move to approve it with the 2 staff comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to, excuse me, approve the site plan for the building additions on the existing church. It's 2300 South Main Street, the First Baptist Church, with the 2 additions, which is a submission and approval of an erosion control plan prior to any land disturbing activities and prior to the issuance of a building permit, and approval of a stormwater management plan amendment prior to the issuance of a building permit. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on again now to certified survey map. is a CSM-19-005, create one lot located north of Sendix on West Washington Street, west of 18th Avenue by Greg Dvorkin, West Bend Enterprises, LLC. Jim?
Thank you. The certified survey map is located approximately 300 feet west of 18th Avenue on the south side of Washington Street. The purpose of the CSM is to combine 3 existing lots into one to facilitate the development of this property. The property is zoned B1 Community Business District. The lot will have direct access to West Washington Street, and then also the CSM does provide a 17-foot right-of-way dedication for West Washington Street. This dedication just cleans up the area for highway easements that exist out there, and is just officially dedicating that property instead of the highway easements. Staff would recommend approval of the CSM with the 2 listed conditions.
Okay. Questions or comments on the part of the commission?
Move to approve with the 2 conditions.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the CSM with the following conditions. 1, revision of the CSM to address the technical corrections, including providing an access restriction prohibiting access to West Washington Street except for within 70 foot of the west property line. And 2, approval of the CSM by the Common Council accepting the right-of-way dedication for West Washington Street. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion is carried. Moving on to site plan. And it's SP-19-009, site plan for commercial development located north of Sendix on West Washington Street, west of 18th Avenue by Greg Dvorkin, West Bend Enterprises, LLC. Applicant is Greg Dvorkin, agent is Eric Newman. Jim again?
Thank you. This site plan is actually a follow behind from the certified survey map that was just approved. The site plan is for a 3,000 square foot commercial building. The site does identify a second building pad that has not been determined, and then a separate approval for that building pad would need to be presented before the Plan Commission at the time of completion of those design plans. The 1.7 acre parcel is zoned to B1 Community Business District. The site plan identifies a shared screened refuse area. The refuse area will be made of a masonry enclosure compatible with the proposed building. The plans that originally identified the gates to be chain link with vision slats. Staff is requesting that the gates be changed to be made of a more compatible material similar to either cedar gates or some other compatible material other than the chain link slats that we typically do not approve. Access to the site will have a direct connection to West Washington Street. The site also identifies an internal connection at the southwest corner of the site, which connects directly into the Sendix development. A traffic impact analysis was originally completed for the Pizza Ranch development at the time that they were looking at this property. Engineering has requested that an updated analysis be provided to verify that specific off-site improvements are not needed for Washington Street or 18th Avenue. 19 parking stalls and 1 barrier-free stall is being provided for this phase, which meets the parking requirements for this size of a development. Stormwater management plan will be required for the development, and the site grades generally have been designed to drain to the north and also to the south, where the water ultimately ends up on the south side of the development within the stormwater management facilities. Site lighting is being provided on the site. They are proposing LED fixtures mounted on light poles. Staff is requesting that the overall height of the poles be identified and not to exceed 25 feet per the requirements of the urban design standards. Adequate landscaping is being provided. We have perimeter landscaping on the, around the north side of the site, along with some on the east side and within the landscape islands. The site plan also identifies a monument sign location on the north side of the building. The sign that was proposed was actually a coordinated development sign. Staff has talked with the developer in regards to that, and in order for the coordinated development sign to occur, we would have to do a planned unit development overlay district, which allows for coordinated development signs to incorporate multiple sites advertising at one location. So a separate PUD amendment would be required for that proposal of the coordinated development site. The architectural building elevations also identify the wall signage on for the building. The architectural elevations do identify 4 signs on the building, 1 on each side of the building. The code does not permit by right more than 2 signs per building. If the developer would like to consider having a sign on each side of the building, an exception granted by Plan Commission would have to be applied for and requested, along with justification for the 4 signs. So staff would recommend that either the signs be reduced to 2 or that an exception comes back at a later date for approval. The architectural building elevations consist of the building being earth tone gray. The materials involved for the building is EIFS for the majority of the building, and 2 different styles of gray. And then the lower portion is also identified having a stacked stone. Awnings are provided over the entrances and over the windows. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the listed 7 conditions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, can you identify yourself again, please?
Sure, Eric Newman, MSI General, P.O. Box 7, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And the only comment that we have this evening is to discuss the item number 4, the revised traffic impact study. We had done one prior for for a higher use for the Pizza Ranch. We'd like the engineer to consider that, as well as having a meeting with staff and the developer to confirm any of the inner easement and cross-access easements needed.
Can I make a comment on that?
Okay. Mac? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. The reason that we asked for the revised traffic impact analysis is because the first one that was done for a specific building, a specific use, and it was showing what would be needed because of the impact of that use on 18th Avenue and West Washington Street. What we want to know is, now that we have a different building, what would be the impact of that building? And that new analysis might show that there's no impact, or that there is some impact but less than the previous, or whatever. We just want to make sure we have that document showing what impact we will have for this new proposed building. And then the second thing I would like to say is that on the site plan, there is proposal to do another building at a later date. Obviously, at this time, we don't know what the use is going to be, so we don't know if there would be an impact with the new traffic generated, and what that impact would be, if we would need new improvements in the street or changing the timing of the traffic signal, whatever it may be. And what the question I have for Mark and Jim, and I would like to make sure that when this new building is proposed, that we do have a step in the process to actually look at that. So does that mean that they would need a new site plan for that, or how would we make sure that we get to take a look at that?
current site plan, because it doesn't address the use of that second building pad, there's no way to evaluate this right now for parking demand, because we don't know the use. We don't know what other ramifications there might be or what other changes might be. We also do not have building specifics, so that second phase of the development would require a site plan approval. And again, the impact could be reviewed at that time if you feel it's necessary.
Yes, I would like that. And to answer your question about meeting and discuss whatever findings you have with the driveway trip generation for the business you're proposing right now, we can definitely meet about that and take a look at other easement for cross-access, I guess you said.
Okay.
We can, I think Mark and Jim can schedule a meeting with all our staff, and then we'll meet with you and discuss those points.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Sarah?
Max, am I understanding correctly then, if, when the second building comes back, not only will we need a second site plan, but we'll need a second traffic analysis?
Yes, we would need a new analysis to show what the impact of that new building would be on the side or in the surrounding roads.
And Mark, is that automatically part of a site plan, or is that something we should specify as one of the conditions?
It's a judgment call. We depend upon the city engineer to make those determinations. So during the review of the site plan, he would let us know that that is needed.
Okay.
And we would bring that.
I don't
that
think it needs
request
to be a condition right now.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we would have another site plan so we can.
Right.
It's generally at the site plan submittal that we require
Okay.
the traffic impact.
So I am hearing, though, or perhaps I heard that we do need to add an eighth condition regarding the doors on the garbage area. Is that correct?
You could add a condition in there, or we can just handle it at staff level too.
That's fine.
I mean, that's
Okay.
it's up to the commission.
Any other questions? Chris?
No.
Okay.
Then I'll move to approve with the conditions listed.
I just wanted to make sure, did I answer your question, sir, on the why I had asked for the traffic? Yes, okay, good, thank you.
I do have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not a problem. And Mark can probably help me, or Jim. This here, is this in ingress and egress, or off of Washington? Or is that going to be strictly ingress, that opening, the access?
It's right in, right out from Washington. So you can turn in to the site, or you can turn out but only go eastbound. You can't,
I
you
got
can
you.
only access it from eastbound
Right.
Washington, and you can only exit to eastbound Washington.
And that proximity is how far to the intersection, or that distance?
300 feet.
Don't have that exact distance, but it's very, it matches almost exactly the distance that we approved in site plan for a previous proposal, the Pizza Ranch site.
Okay. That's just
And the reason the 70-foot restriction that was asked for on the CSM was brought forward is, A, it's based on the site plan, but it's also based upon the dedicated turn lanes and the rest on East Washington Street.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, Sarah, sorry.
Again, I move to approve with the conditions listed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the site plan for commercial development on this parcel located north of Sendix on West Washington Street with the following conditions. Submission and approval of an erosion control plan prior to any land disturbing activities and prior to the issuance of a building permit. Provision of a landscape bid and adequate surety prior to the issuance of a building permit. Approval of a stormwater management plan prior to the issuance of a building permit. Approval of a revised traffic impact analysis by the city engineer for the proposed commercial uses and provision of cross-access easements between Sendix site and this parcel. Revision of the site plan set to incorporate technical corrections as identified during city staff review. The coordinated development sign will require a separate approval upon establishment of a planned unit development overlay for the site. And number 7, elimination of 2 of the building mounted signs or submission of a request to the Planning Commission for a exception to the code restriction. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you again. Excuse me. Moving on to concept plan H number 1 is CP-19-001, a concept plan for the second amendment to the master plan for River Shores for the remaining lands located in the River Shores development east of Shore Lane and River Shores Drive extended east by Kyle Gappison Riverbend Development. Applicant is Kyle Gappison Riverbend Development. Agent is Matthew A. Clementi, Stantec Consulting. Jim, again, please.
Actually, I'll take this, Jim, if you don't
Mark,
mind.
again, please.
The master plan for River Shores was originally developed prior to even the first dirt being turned on this site. It's founded in the developers' agreements between the city and the developer for this site. It's been amended from time to time. We asked that the developer update it. Some past approvals have deviated from the previous master plan, and we require some changes. Jim, if you'd go to the black and white, the first one. If you notice on this site, you'll see that we have roads right away, not constructed roads, but road right away dedicated and lands platted. And then we subsequently vacated portions of that right of way to terminate, for example, on Riverbend Drive. That we've gotten to the point now, the limited amount of remaining vacant land on this, we have to start cleaning up some of these alterations that we did previously. So, Jim, if you go to the original master, this was the last adopted master plan. You can see it had a circular pattern for Riverbend Drive and River Shores Drive. That's no longer possible. It also had land use designations that are inconsistent with what the Plan Commission and Council have approved subsequently. So we've asked for an updated plan, Jim, please, to be developed. This one basically addresses those past approvals. It allows for the terminus of River Shores Drive in a public cul-de-sac. It gives us gets rid of the other unneeded roadway right-of-way. It consolidates the remaining vacant lands and developable sites, and it provides for dedicated parking that the developer is requesting in 2 different locations. It also retains the public access to the pedestrian bridge over the Milwaukee River. We would recommend that if this moves forward, if you find this acceptable, we would also have it endorsed by City Council because it does form the basis of a couple of agreements. And then there are a number of, we would use it for a bunch of implementation actions that are needed, including further street right-of-way vacations, replatting of the remaining vacant lands, and approvals of development plans. All of those would be coming before you as implementation of this concept if you approve it. We would recommend approval of the agreement, of the concept plan as a master plan for River Shores.
Thank you. Any questions from Ari on this?
Are we abstaining from this item?
Thank you. Please note that Bernie will be abstaining. Okay, Sarah?
Is there only pedestrian access from the proposed parking area to the River Shores cul-de-sac?
I'm sorry.
Is there only pedestrian access from the parking lot, the proposed parking area, to the cul-de-sac, the River Shores cul-de-sac?
No, it actually, there's a current access path to it right now. It might be altered under this plan. The developer is here. If you want, Matt, if you want to try to address that, please.
Hello, I'm Matthew Clementi, civil engineer with Stantec. I'm listed as the agent. Right now, the phase 1 of the parking lot just enters on one side on the south. As part of this plan, we would extend the parking lot out to where the cul-de-sac bulb is listed, and there would be a vehicle access at that point as well for circulation.
So fire trucks have a couple ways of getting in
Yes.
to all parts of this property?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir. I misunderstood your question. I thought you were talking about the pedestrian access. Sorry.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to, excuse me, accept this second amendment for the master plan for River Shores for the remaining lands.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll move on. The next one is site plan. Site plan is SP-19-013, a site plan for architectural facade renovation with marquee signs and a new egress for structure at 125 North Main Street by the historic West Bend Theater. The applicant is Nick Novacek. The agent is Dan Ganywa. I understand that this is really a lot of just information and discussion at this point in time. But if you
That is correct. We asked that, we put this on the agenda so that you could have comment early in the process. We considered this a preliminary site plan because a number of items still need to be addressed before this could be finalized. Essentially, as I represented in the memo, it's proposing to take the theater building back to its original appearance, would be the best way to put it, if not condition. It's asking to actually alter its use to a multi-purpose entertainment function. All of that uses that are proposing for this, whether it's private meetings or assembly activities or live entertainment, are permitted uses within the B2 zoning district that apply to this site. The building is currently under application for historic designation, so the interior and exterior renovations that are required for this site will need to satisfy certain requirements for the National Park Service findings. I included the information that was provided from the developer for that in your packet as well. Probably of most significance, that it has an impact on not only on the site plan, has an impact not only for the development of the building or redevelopment of the building, but it also has impact on the adjoining public lands. The applicant is looking for alterations to the Main Street curb lines and possibly the elimination of the traffic circle in front of this for a couple of reasons. Both the protection of the historic marquee projection on the front of the building, and also the potential for looking for drop-off locations adjacent to this site. There's also implications to the public walkway. The city owns the structure and walkway along the north edge of this parcel. This building currently has at least 4 doorways that access into that walkway at 2 different levels. And those need to be preserved. However, we are in the process of redesigning the walkway for consideration by council. So that wasn't fully available to implement into this plan, and it has implications as to their egress. For example, they have a fire escape within the walkway. If we alter the north walkway, the landing point and elevation for that access changes, and it would affect their site plan. In addition to that, they are including the option of possibility of removing an extension on the east side of the building. It currently is a block structure that enshrouds the staircase coming along the east side of the building. They are doing that in trying to cooperate with the city as to maximizing the Riverwalk spacing back there, but they do need to preserve the egress from that upper doorway, which means the replacement would be most likely an open staircase is what they're proposing. That is not, even though it's included within the plans, they have not made a final determination as to whether that will occur. If they do remove the condition, or the rear block building, they are working within floodway. So this structure, that type of work would require a conditional use permit to be issued as well, and we obviously could not make the public hearing notices for that effort for tonight. So again, this is they're trying to restore this building to as close to its original condition as possible. We have some minor details as to building materials and colors that need to be identified in the site plan, but they also need to be approved through the National Historic Review as well. So we have a number of items that still need to be reserved, but we wanted to bring this to you for both comments in general on the redevelopment and also any comments you might have on the use of the public lands adjoining to this.
Comments from the commission? Or would the folks from the Historic West Bend Theater care to add anything to what Mark has said? And again, please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Nick Novacek, president of the Historic West Bend group in town, otherwise affectionately known as the Bend, as our marketing folks call it. I don't have anything to add. I think Mark articulated the point of development we're at, so I would just leave myself available for any questions from any members to clarify anything.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Rich?
So we got to take a look at this yesterday at Common Council as well, and I'll echo my comments from that as well, in terms of I'm really excited by the design, even the handling of the public ways. Obviously, we want to protect that marquee. It is historical, and the way it kind of abuts out into that public use with the roadway there, it's just ripe for something to go wrong there. I think it's a good idea to continue down the route of looking at modifying that traffic circle, not only for the traffic that's going through there, but as it mentions here, for the pedestrians as well. I anticipate a lot of drop-off traffic there, and being there's some tight quarters there in the downtown area, I think having that additional space is going to be extremely beneficial. So again, from what I saw yesterday, I was pretty excited by the plan. So,
okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Okay.
John Torinas, I'm one of the directors of the organization. You know, we've had a lot of requests for different uses of the building. So both senior citizen living facilities want to bring in seniors and buses for matinees on a Wednesday afternoon. Kettle Moraine YMCA wants to bring in kids for drama camps during the summer, during the days. So we just expect a lot of traffic in that building. So we really have to think about the safety of the drop-offs in front, and it's not very good right now. So I think number one consideration is safety here.
Good.
We want this thing to be open 5 or 6 nights a week, just chock full of various community activities, reunions, old movies, music gigs. The millennials want some comedy nights, so it's going to be a busy place.
Good. Okay. Thank you, John.
I just want to say thank you for the work on this.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all. If there's nothing else, okay. All right. We'll move on to item J, zoning amendment public hearing. It's number one. It's ZPU-19-003, a public hearing for a request to amend the existing planned unit development overlay district over the existing B1 community business district to allow for approval of a site plan to include reduced setbacks and other design exceptions for the redevelopment of the property for a retail store at 1605-1801 South Main Street by REIT West Bend LLC. The applicant is Daniel Kwiatkowski, and the agent is Adam Hurdle. Jim?
Thank you. I am going to take this item and the next item, since they're together as the zoning amendment and the site plan for the commercial building. The planned unit development amendment and site plan is for a 6,600 square foot commercial building at 1605 North Main. The developer is proposing to demolish the existing building and reconstruct the new 6,600 square foot building. The zoning amendment request is to amend the PUD overlay district for a reduced street yard setback along Butternut Street. The proposal is for the reduced setback from 42 feet to 8.38 feet on the northwest side of the building and 10.88 feet on the northeast side of the building. This setback is actually fairly consistent with the existing setback for the existing building that is going to be torn down. All property owners within 200 feet were notified of the public hearing, and staff did not receive any inquiries or comments pertaining to the zoning amendment or even the site plan.
I interject one thing. I think you made a typo when you said North Main. It's really South Main.
I'm sorry, South Main.
Thank you, just so we don't get hung up on something. Go ahead, Jim. Thank you.
Sure. Access to the site is going to remain the same. The developer is requesting an exception for an oversized driveway for the easterly-most driveway where the semi-truck movements take place for both the Pick and Save site and also for the Pet Supplies Plus site. The parking configuration also remains the same, and the PUD has also already established cross-access and parking between the entire development. A stormwater management plan amendment will be needed to verify that that it complies with the original approval of the development when the PUD was originally created. All existing laterals will be reutilized for the construction of the new building. The landscaping plan identifies foundation plantings for the new building, and it also identifies the existing landscaping within this area to be redone and refreshed along the perimeters and in the landscape islands. The site plan also identifies 2 wall signs being proposed. 131.6 square feet signs are being proposed on the north side of the building and also on the west side. Both these signs conform to the sign requirements. The architectural building elevations for the development consist of a cream-colored masonry unit for the majority of the building, and they are also accenting with a coffee-colored or a darker-colored tan masonry unit on the upper portions. The west side of the building will also have a metal siding accent on the upper portion of the building, along with canopies on the west side of the building. The building materials are compatible with the surrounding commercial uses, along with the buildings within that site. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan and the zoning amendment with listed conditions.
Thank you, Jim. This is a public hearing. Does anybody in the audience want to address this?
Close the public hearing.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay. I was going to do a comment,
Oh,
but...
I'm sorry,
You were
I didn't know if you were going to
too
talk
quick
or not.
I was just going to say, I'm going to be the Pet Supplies Plus franchisee in the area. I've lived in West Bend for 30-some years. My wife and I have decided, I was in the automobile business for 30 years, and we decided this was something we wanted to do. So I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, good. Now, entertain a motion. Did we get, was it moved? Okay,
Close
good.
the public hearing? Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion's carried. Entertain a motion on amending the proposed plan unit development zoning.
I'll make a motion to approve with contingent on the one comment by staff.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Okay, moving on now to the site plan. Okay. We need any questions or concerns on that?
My tablet is frozen, and I wanted to make sure we had something about the stormwater in there.
Yeah,
Was
there
there-
is.
Yeah, for the amendment. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the site plan with the following conditions. Approval of revised stormwater management plan prior to the issuance of a building permit. Submission and approval of erosion control plan prior to any land disturbing activities. Provision of a landscape bid and surety prior to the issuance of a building permit. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you. And excuse me, now, next site plan is number 2, site plan SP-19-011, site plan for a 1,872 square foot office addition at the east end of the existing building at 111 East Washington Street by Deb Pish of Kugli LLC, who is the applicant. The agent is Todd Weicker. And again, Jim.
Thank you. This site plan approval is for a building addition for the affiliated clinical services. The parcel, the 1.26 acre parcel is zoned MXD, Mixed Use District. Again, the development proposal, the access to the site has remained unchanged, along with the parking area. The need for additional parking is not needed due to the hours of the services and the staffing for the services being provided. A stormwater management plan does exist for the site, and the only grades that will be changing on site will be in the area located around the proposed addition. The architectural building elevations, the materials for the addition will be matching the existing building, which consists of a burgundy blend veneer, brick veneer, split face block, and EIFS cornices. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the one listed condition.
Comments or questions on the part of the commission?
I would like to add one thing with the stormwater. There was a math error in their report, and so we would like them to correct that. Are they resubmitting a site plan revision or not to you?
I don't believe we needed one.
Okay, then if they could send us an email with the revised calculations. Otherwise, I would have told them to just put it on the site plan, but if they're not doing a site plan, then we would like them to email us the revised calculations.
Okay. Do we have to make that a condition?
Yes, please.
Okay. Got that.
I'll be abstaining for this item.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, entertain a motion to approve the site plan for this 1,872 square foot office addition at 111 East Washington Street with the addition of Max's concerns. How would you say that, Max, again?
I can make the motion, then I'll make the motion to approve the site plan with the one condition listed plus an additional condition to submit the revised stormwater management calculations to the engineering department.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Ooh.